It's time to dive into Prototype Cup Germany action for the final time in 2022, our final weekend. One race today, we're already on the formation lap, and another tomorrow with championships at stake. No time to waste, let's get you through the starting grid for this one. It's Don Armunding who starts the Molnar Motorsport Duqueine chassis alongside Axel Jeffries in the Ginetta from Conrad Motorsport. A very compelling and competitive front row. Oscar Tunjo is next for Rinaldi Racing in his Duqueine, and the Ligier of Rory Penttinen. That car brand new this week for MRS GT Racing. The Finnish driver doing a good job to qualify fourth there. Torsten Kratz in fifth place in the WTM Racing Duqueine alongside Berkay Bessler, alongside Marvin Dienst, of course, in the number 7 TalkSport WRT Ligier. Moritz Lerner, the Sim Racing All-Star, three-time Esports GT Masters champion. He starts alongside Julian Schell, the Le Mans veteran for Pegasus Racing. Both of those cars are Ligiers. Sebastian von Gartzen is next in the Racing Experience Duqueine. The American Danny Sufi in his second weekend of prototype racing. He starts in 10th. Sebastian Aronram and Michael Herrich, or Michael Herrich, I should say, rounding out our 12-car order for this one. It's been a dramatic weekend already. Thursday and Friday were both days with challenging conditions. We had a rather damp qualifying session on Friday as well, so certainly the challenges have been thrown at these drivers so far. There's a title on the line too. Today, Don Armunding and Matthias Luton in that Molnar Motorsport 21 car have to outscore the TalkSport WRT number 7 to stay in the championship hunt going into tomorrow. The race, though, is on, and it's Don Armunding with the lead into the first corner, but Axel Jeffries tries to hang the Ginetta around the outside, and he goes flying over the curbs, quite literally airborne, but thankfully he remains on terra firma now, still in second place. Make that third potentially, because Oscar Tunjo is trying to go around the outside. Berkay Bessler bouncing across the runoff on the curbs on the outside of turn 2, and he's falling through the order significantly. This is huge for the championship. 25.5 points coming into this one between the 21 car and the 7, but it's too close for comfort in the battle for second place. Penttinen there in the MRS GT Racing Ligier dies for second place despite Axel Jeffries' best efforts at closing the door. Penttinen kicked it down and then threw it in the trash can for good measure. He moves up to second place, and Oscar Tunjo says, well, while we're at it, I'll take third place. And Axel Jeffries gets shoved out slightly there by Tunjo, dropping it to fourth place, and Tunjo tags Penttinen. What is going on the first lap? These drivers are in the car for the first time today, and clearly they're excited about it. There's a lot going on. Penttinen there, I believe, with a puncture too. Yes, he has damage. And Berkay Bessler too. Oh, the championship leading car. The TalkSport WRT number 7 of Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst is limping home, I believe, with another puncture. And the number 12 Racing Experience car, Sebastian von Gartzen, didn't make it beyond the hairpin either. I wonder if those two things are connected. But clearly, this looks like a race ender for Berkay Bessler. Huge suspension damage on the front of that car, and he's not even going to try and get it back to the pit. He pulls it up onto the grass, and I think that's day over for Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst. One of the talking points of this race was going to be the fact that Marvin Dienst, just 2 hours or so ago, was racing an NEAC GT Masters. Well, turns out he's not needed in the TalkSport WRT Ligier today. Penttinen has got the 14 car, the MRS GT Racing entry, back into pit lane. So hopefully they can get that car sorted. They are troubled with a little bit of rear damage there. Now this car, I mentioned it in passing on the formation lap, brand new. They were literally taking the wrapping off the thing. Yes, they do come in wrapping race cars. In the early stages of this week, it ran pretty much for the first time here at Hockenheim on Thursday. And now Penttinen taking on a new experience in terms of being an LMP3 driver for MRS GT Racing. Has done admirably to this point, but it was this contact between Axel Jeffries and Penttinen that really set things up for, frankly, disaster up and down the order. Heading into the hairpin, contact between Jeffries and Penttinen, and that would ultimately trigger a bit of a compacting, and I missed that completely while watching the battle for second unfold. A huge clattering together between Bessler and Sebastian von Gartzen. Of course, Bessler lost a lot of time at turn 2. And I think he was trying to make it up at turn 6, the hairpin. And unfortunately, he's done anything but that. He's badly wounded his car and potentially ended his race. And there you see, eventually getting tagged around Penttinen there by Oscar Tunjo, who is now in second place behind our leader, Donar Munding, who I think is probably the only driver out there who didn't have any concerns or any damage or any fighting to do on that first lap. He was side by side with Axel Jeffries at turn 1, but he then made good his escape and everything kicked off behind him in no uncertain terms. Back into the pits now is the number 12 Racing Experience car of Sebastian von Gartzen, so they're going to try and send that one back out. Unfortunately, Berkay Bessler is looking to go no further in this race. You'll be unsurprised to see that the incident between those two is under investigation. Incident between cars 2 and 14 also under investigation. That's Axel Jeffries and Rory Penttinen heading down into the hairpin on lap 1. I dare say that entire first lap is going to be replayed long into the evening down at race control, because that was a lot going on at once. And some discussions going on there with Sebastian von Gartzen, I think, trying to fire the car up. And I don't think it wants to play ball. He's got his thumb on the start button, but it's not firing. And that is a huge shame for a duo that had been immensely entertaining. Gary Hauser is always a fighter, the Luxembourg-based driver. And von Gartzen has more than held his end as well. Danny Sufi has ended up off the circuit. The American driver in the safety car queue has ended up off track and is now rejoining. Now, the nature of the fact that he's now 30 or so seconds back from the safety car queue makes me think that perhaps it lost power and now he's got it started again, rather than having made a significant mistake and then taken 30 seconds to do a 3-point turn. There's the sorry sight of the championship leading car, TalkSport WRT's number 7 Ligier, in the hands of Berkay Bessler, and Marvin Dienst is going to non-score in this race. And what this does is it sets up what is potentially a mouth-watering close to this season in tomorrow's race. If Donar Munding takes the win along with Matthias Luton today, scores 25 points, there will be half a point in it in the overall championship standings going into tomorrow's decider. So it's all to play for here with the form car of the season, the car that has taken 4 wins on the side of the circuit and damaged. It's now anyone's game and anyone's guess as we go back to green flag conditions. It's Donar Munding that leads from Oscar Tunjo, Torsten Kratz up to 3rd place for WTM Racing, and diving back up to 4th there was Axel Jeffries. The black and white car, it was meant to be just white, but they've had to replace some parts on the 24 Reiter Engineering machine. That's in 5th place. Lock up there for Oscar Tunjo as he tried to slow down for turn 2. There is the Reiter Engineering 24 car in the hands of the Sim Racing star, the 3-time ADAC GT Esports champion, in the form of Moritz Lerner. Lerner having to defend hard here from Aaron Ram in the 72 car. The Finnish racer who has been with us all season has been doing a good job and is now pressuring as they head down towards the Mercedes Arena. Thankfully this time everyone's through the Mercedes Arena without any particular dramas. There you see the 24 car from Reiter Engineering. It is Moritz Lerner's first ever weekend racing in a LMP machine, an LMP3 machine. He's done a couple of seasons in GT4 cars, as up the inside there goes Julian Schell. The Pegasus racing car being driven by the team boss at the moment. We'll hand over later on to a true young prodigy in Thibaut Earhart, who has been promising everywhere he has set foot in recent times. Look at this, the top four very close together. Donar Munding, followed by Oscar Tunjo. Then it's Torsten Kratz, and then it's Axel Jeffries. It's three Duquesne chassis, followed by a Ginetta. Danny Sufi getting involved here with the Gebhardt car in the hands of Mikael Herrick. And also, oh, just almost getting squeezed out there. That was a bit scary. That is Rory Penttinen again. So Penttinen, who's already been in the pits once with a puncture and some damage, is still getting the elbows out, firmly blocking off Danny Sufi there. Sufi, the 19-year-old American racer, and a driver who has very little experience outside of drifting and Mazda MX-5 racing. He went straight from drifting in a Corvette in Texan state-level events and basically low-level national racing in America in a Mazda MX-5. He's now moved all the way up to LMP3 cars here in Germany. Of course, he debuted last time out at Lausitzring, and he has been very impressive given the hefty jump up he has made in terms of competition and car. He currently sits in 9th place. There's Axel Jeffries, though, in the leading of the two Conrad Motorsport Ginettas, Danny Sufi's sister car, as it were. Of course, Axel, a GT racing and endurance racing generally, an absolute weapon of a driver. He's not yet 30, very much in his prime of his career, and a driver who can turn himself to any GT car or prototype and show everyone else the way. Axel Jeffries looking to challenge Torsten Kratz for 3rd place right now. I've said it before while covering Prototype Cup Germany, it's great to see some representation for Ginetta in the Prototype Cup Germany. Bit deep there for Axel Jeffries into the hairpin, but the Ginetta, not the most favoured LMP3 chassis. Certainly Duquesne and Ligier have quite the hold on the market, but the Ginetta is an impressive car. And it's good to see a team as prestigious as Conrad Motorsport and indeed as Gebhardt Motorsport, two teams with a lot of history adopting the Ginetta chassis. So we've mentioned the championship connotations in the overall standings. 25.5 points was the gap between Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst, and then the 2nd place duo Donar Munding, who's on our screen as our leader right now, and Matthias Lutten behind. Matthias, who of course is a bronze-rated driver, he's in the trophy class. So as a bronze-rated driver, that means he's an amateur, he's not a professional. So you can't expect the same performance from him as you would a Donar Munding. But we've seen exactly how good Matthias Lutten can be. So even though he is a bronze-rated driver, firmly classed as an amateur racer, he is a very strong driver. Oscar Tunjo, of course, a youngster with a lot of potential, came up through the junior single-seater ladder, a race winner in GP3. So he is firmly a pro driver, as is Donar Munding. Torsten Kratz also, I believe, a silver-rated driver. In fact, no, my apologies, he is a bronze-rated driver, but he is a very quick one. So he is challenging and threatening Oscar Tunjo right now. Side by side, meanwhile, between Penttinen and Julian Schell. There you see the championship standings. As I was talking about, if it finished now, it would be half a point at the top, but it's less than half a second in the battle for 7th place as Penttinen finds a way around the outsides of Julian Schell. It's not often we see a move around the outside at the hairpin. Looks as though Julian Schell having to fight a little bit of oversteer there in the Pegasus Racing Ligier. Both Julian Schell and Thibaut were racing in the Ultimate Cup Series a few weeks ago here at Hockenheim, so they've got lots of experience in this car on this track. And we'll see what Thibaut Earhart can do later on. For now, we continue to watch this top 4 disappear away up the order. While we're talking driver racings, of course, Axel Jeffries, he is an accomplished pro driver. He is a pro and a gold driver, a silver driver to go with it. A silver-rated driver who I think is knocking on the door of going gold in the future. Side by side then with Julian Schell and Danny Soufi, and Soufi has made up a position on Julian Schell as well. I think the Frenchman at the wheel of his own team's car really is struggling with balance at the moment. It just doesn't look happy in low-speed situations or acceleration zones. The car does not look particularly settled, the 23 Pegasus Racing car. So Danny Soufi moves up to 8th place. Just his 3rd race in anything faster than a Mazda MX-5, and he's just overtaken someone who was raced at the Le Mans 24 hours. I'd say Danny Soufi is on a progression curve that is rather admirable and could go a lot higher than it currently is. Top 4 close as you like. This is exciting racing. Of course, there isn't just the Prototype Cup Germany standings to consider. There's also the trophy class and the juniors. Now, the trophy class is being led by Matthias Luton by a considerable margin right now. Torsten Kratz is 2nd in that proceeding. So Kratz would be very keen on finishing ahead of this 21 car. Meanwhile, a drive-through penalty has been applied to Oscar Tunjo for causing a collision. That, of course, was when he tagged Penttinen around a few laps ago. Can't say it's the biggest surprise. Of course, Rory Penttinen ended up with a puncture for that, for his troubles in that one. Penttinen making his debut in the Prototype Cup Germany, and he's now fighting his way back through the order. Oscar Tunjo, though, is going to have to serve a drive-through penalty. No half-hearted measures with that move, and certainly it was a slight error of judgment from Oscar Tunjo. 39 minutes and 35 seconds left to go in this one. We're rapidly bearing down on the pit window as well. Donnar Munding is our race leader for Duqueine and the Molnar Motorsport outfit. We'd expect, as a rule, Donnar Munding to stay out there until the end of the window. Let's see if Oscar Tunjo takes the first possible opportunity to serve his drive-through penalty. Certainly, I think most drivers just look at it as, well, get it out of the way. But for now, he presses on. Perhaps the team is trying to argue the point, or maybe Oscar is just frustrated and wants to drive in peace and serve the penalty after 3 laps, which is the maximum you can do before you start to face even harsher penalties. There's the battle for 6th place. Sebastian Ehrenram in 6th position right now. The Swedish driver for the Kuurinen Motorsport team in their Duqueine DO8. He's being pursued by Penttinen, who's still on that recovery drive. The top 4 currently covered by 2.226 seconds, and Tunjo going deep, deep, deep into the hairpin there. Don't think that was by design. Just missed his braking opportunity, perhaps the slipstream skewing his braking zone somewhat. If you've got the help of a slipstream up ahead, sometimes you need to brake a little bit earlier. And I imagine Tunjo, with that little slip up in mind, might say, well, let's just get this penalty out of the way this time by. Certainly, you have to visit the pit lane soon. Torsten Kratz and Axel Jeffries loom large in his mirrors. They're fighting for 3rd place right now. It will soon be 2nd. And once Tunjo does head to the penalty or head to the pit lane service penalty, which he hasn't done this time by, I'm sure that Matthias Luton will be cheering on Axel Jeffries. Thorsten Kratz, of course, his competition in the Prototype Cup Germany trophy class. Matthias Luton commands a lead of just over 50 points in that championship right now, so he is fairly comfortable in the championship lead, but he can seal the trophy class here today. And he will seal that trophy class, I believe, if he outscores Thorsten Kratz today. He doesn't even necessarily have to do that. I believe he has to be 37.5 clear to succeed in winning the trophy category in this race today, and there's 51 points between them at the moment, so in theory it is a fairly comfortable margin, but I'm sure if Thorsten Kratz can be held up by a little bit of a scrap with Axel Jeffries, that would make Matthias Luton extra happy and extra comfortable. A little bit of a lock-up there for the 33 car, Oscar Tunjo, who has been having a bit of a rabid stint at the wheel of the Rinaldi racing car. I believe he will have to come in this time by, or the stewards will start looking into alternative, harsher means of punishment for the collision with Penttinen a few laps ago. And this time, Tunjo does come into pit lane, so Oscar Tunjo in to serve the drive-through penalty. Heads to the pit limiter zone at maximum speed to try and minimise the effect of this trundle through pit lane at 80 kilometres an hour. It's a painful process for sure. And he will rejoin the race, I believe, down in 9th behind Julian Schell. Yes, indeed. Schell just goes past the pit exit there. Down to 9th place is Oscar Tunjo. That's going to be a lot of work for Martin Berry, who joins Oscar Tunjo this weekend. Martin Berry, a veteran of GT racing and Ferrari Challenge competition. Up the inside there, potentially, was Penttinen, not quite able to do it, but he might have psyched out Sebastian Ahrenram, because Ahrenram went defensive, took a tighter line around turn 6, and that now leaves him vulnerable to Penttinen, who got a much better run out of the corner. Looks to the inside of the Mercedes arena, and not quite close enough to make a move. But Aaron Ram certainly under pressure, not just from Penttinen, but also Danny Sufi, who is keeping a watching brief behind in P8. It was fascinating speaking to Danny Sufi. He actually has been kind of running as something of an intern, from what I understand, at Conrad Motorsport since Lausitz. He's been working in the Conrad Motorsport headquarters, helping out and earning his keep between the two events. And now he's back at the wheel of the Ginetta and in the scrap for 6th place overall. Sebastian Ahrenram, though, keeping on his grasp of 6th place for now. Danny Sufi, one of the junior drivers at 19 years old. Certainly he's one of the junior, or most junior drivers out there. Donar Munding, incidentally, is leading the junior class currently. As you see, the pit window is about to open for 10 minutes. So when the clock hits 33 minutes to go exactly, we open the pits for 10 minutes. Everyone has to serve a mandatory pit stop, including a driver change. We'll see how that unfolds. There are slightly different pit stop penalties for a few of the drivers and teams based on exactly how potent they are. So Sebastian Ahrenram in 5th place. Of course, I was talking about this being the battle for 6th earlier. It's now the battle for 5th because of Oscar Tunjo's penalty. Tunyo, who incidentally has already found his way past Julian Schell and is not too far back from this scrap for 5th. So it may not be long before he gets back involved. Danny Sufi, meanwhile, is into the pit lane, as is Rory Penttinen. Both of these drivers are solo. So there's no handover to be done. Both into the pit lane. Penttinen making his first appearance here in the Prototype Cup Germany. He is a very spectacular driver. He's had some great successes in competition in his homelands. Was a racer in Radicals and Legends cars, even a class winner at the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Most recent significant success was a title win in the Asian Le Mans Series LMP3 class in 2021. That was with United Autosports. Zach Brown's operation. So certainly a driver who knows his way around LMP3 machinery. And we'll see if he can get himself any further up the order after a tricky first stint. When they head back out there, Gebhardt Motorsports number 70 car is in as well. It has been for a while. Mikael Herrick, in fact, no, my apologies, only just come into the pit lane for its mandatory stop, but is down in 10th place right now. So Mikael Herrick in the 70 car is due to hand the car over shortly. Meanwhile, problems getting the car started. Oh, not again. We had this for Danny Sufi last time at the Lausitzring as well. Into the pits has gone Sebastian Aronram. They were hooking up a battery to the Conrad Motorsport Ginetta. And we did see the car slow down under safety car, didn't we? And I wondered whether that was going to be an issue with the car powering down involuntarily, and I think that's exactly what happened earlier on, and that's exactly what's happening again now. Danny Sufi cannot get that car fired. What a shame for the young American. Penttinen, who came into the pits at the same time as him, has already rejoined the race. And so they're well beyond schedule, and unfortunately, Danny Sufi doesn't look to be going any further in this one. Sebastian Aronram is in the pit lane. It's smoking a little bit, the sixth-backed Corin and Kempe Motorsport car. That's just hot brakes. Elsewhere, the battle for second place is still intense between Torsten Kratz and Axel Jeffries. Donald Munding still leading the way right now. You see Oscar Tunyo is also back in the pits and has already handed over to Martin Berry. Out into the race once again goes Sebastian Aronram then. And he will rejoin the race down in 6th place by the looks of it. Of course, no, it's a handover now, isn't it? Jesse Salmonaucio has taken over that car. So Sebastian Aronram making way for Jesse Salmonaucio, who will take that car home for Corin and Kempe Motorsport. Unfortunately, Danny Sufi still not going anywhere, and it's such a shame for a young driver with a lot of ambition. And a great deal of talent in a very early stage of his prototype racing career, but it does seem as though that car has let him down. Torsten Kratz, meanwhile, still with Axel Jeffries hot on his heels. Axel Jeffries was a part of the Pro-Am second place finishing Conrad Lamborghini squad in the Nürburgring 24 Hours earlier this year, as was his teammate for today, Maximilian Hacklander. Both are part of the squad that took second place in GT3 Pro-Am, SP9 Pro-Am in the Nürburgring 24 Hours earlier this year. Has been a mainstay of Conrad Motorsport for many years, Axel Jeffries. But that is far from the only thing that he gets up to. He's very scarcely got a weekend away from a racing circuit. We were talking about that earlier on. He laughed and said he was greedy. And I was like, well, if there's a paycheck in a race car, why not? And that certainly seems to be Axel Jeffries' motif. And great to see someone so eager to go racing. Unfortunately, Danny Sufi, while he's extremely eager to go racing, the car doesn't seem as keen today. Bit deep into the hairpin there goes Axel Jeffries, still trying to find a way around Torsten Kratz. Meanwhile, Donar Munding has built up a gap of 5.2 seconds over Torsten Kratz. That is good going. The pit stop time for majority, or for an overwhelming majority of the field, the mandatory pit stop time is 105 seconds. No one has gone below that as of yet. Car 22, that's Danny Sufi's Conrad Ginetta, under investigation for infringement of Article 39. I'm guessing that has something to do with trying to fire up a car with a battery in pit lane, but it's of little relevance because he's already out of the race, unfortunately. Into the pits come the battle for second, as well as Moritz Lerner, who had a quiet stint, it must be said. We didn't see much of him on screen, but he's brought the car in fourth place. He had 15 minutes of seat time in an LMP3 car coming into this weekend. He won't thank me for saying this, but yesterday in free practice, at one point he backed it into a tyre wall, so he lost time that he could have spent learning the car then as well. But in the race, Moritz Lerner has indeed been a very fast learner. A promising performance from the youngster who has shown promise in GT4 cars, but LMP3s are a completely different kettle of fish. A much harder car to drive, a much more raw, physical and pure racing car, of course. These cars have traction control, but no ABS. Yes, power steering, but in general the car is very raw and relies on its driver to do the hard work and the heavy lifting. 1 minute and 20 seconds of the pit window left, and Donar Munding is about to hopefully bring the car in, because if he doesn't come into the pits this time, he's going to exceed the pit window. And clearly they know that, because in comes the Molnar Motorsport 21 car off camera. We'll see him in the pit shortly as they continue to await departure at Reiter Engineering in the 24 machine. Off goes that machine now. And into the pit lane comes the 21 car in the hands of Donar Munding. Getting a replay here of Donar Munding fully committed into the pit lane there. A little kick of oversteer coming into the pits as Matthias Luton takes over, the bronze-rated driver. He will be looking to sew up the trophy class today. He will be looking to try and get as many points on the board in the overall championship as well, because, as I will remind you, if you are just joining us, Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst didn't even make it to the end of lap number 1. Berkay Bessler started the car, made heavy contact at turn 6 with Sebastian von Gartz in the Racing Experience machine, broke the suspension on the Ligier, and both Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst, our championship leaders, are now watching on from the sidelines. If things were to finish as they are, it would be half a point between this car and its drivers, Donar Munding and Matthias Luton, and the TalkSport WRT number 7 duo of Bessler and Marvin Dienst. Leonard Wies at the wheel of the 11 car, which might be about to inherit the race lead. I think Donar Munding is struggling to get going. Rather, Matthias Luton is struggling to get going. They're giving the car a push, and they've lost the lead. Leonard Wies has just crossed the line to take the lead of the race. And, well, it's very much jog on for the marshals, and they've finally got the car moving. Oh, no, they've not. Oh, dearie oh me. It goes from bad to worse. Matthias Luton, oh, now he gets the car started. Thankfully, he gets the car started. But he's going to join the race well down the order. He's going to join the race, I believe, potentially around 6th or 7th place. He's registered 6th at the moment. He is indeed in 6th place. So Matthias Luton, who was due a potential race victory, is now down in 6th place. And again, that changes the championship complexion completely. Because they were due to score 25 points. That would have left just half a point between the number 7 crew and the Molnar Motorsport team. But now, falling down to 6th place, that's going to give them somewhere in the region of 9 points, if my memory serves me correctly. I will get the points table up again in just a second, but certainly that's going to change the complexion of the championship significantly as Leonard Wies continues on. And of course in the trophy class as well, this could be hugely significant because Leonard Wies is effectively now there replacing Torsten Kratz, who is a rival in the trophy standings to Matthias Luton. There was a big gap of 51 points between Luton and Kratz coming into this weekend. But that is going to go down if things finish as they are. Matthias Luton could really do with picking away at some of the drivers ahead of him. But remember, he is a bronze-rated driver, where quite a few of the people around him are more experienced, higher rated, and do this for a career. And with that, obviously, comes a good bit of speed. Car 14, 5-second time penalty, failed to manage track limits at turn 1. That is the car of Rory Penttinen. It's been a dramatic debut in Prototype Cup Germany, I'd say, for the MRS GT Racing crew. Car 21 under investigation for an unsafe release. That is Donar Munding and Matthias Luton's car, currently driven by Luton. The Molnar Motorsport team under investigation for an unsafe release. Of course, we saw the car being pushed. We saw the process of getting the car fired up taking a long time on the pit apron and extending well beyond the remit of their garage door. So there's every chance that this could get more painful. Car number 2 has a 5-second time penalty. That is Maximilian Hacklander. So car number 2 under investigation for an infringement of Article 39. So that was also what the number 22 car was under investigation for. Article 39 is the pit stop regulations. So, a 5-second time penalty applied to car number 2. That's Maximilian Hacklander, who sits 2nd place right now, has taken that car over from Axel Jeffries. Meanwhile, under pressure is Leon Duca from Salman Alshio in the 72 car. Yes, sir, Salman Alshio to the inside of Duca. And that is a move for 3rd place overall. Nice driving, made it look very easy indeed, did Jesse Salman Alshio. Leon Duca also making his Prototype Cup Germany debut this weekend alongside his teammate. So a new lineup all round for Reiter. And the points as they stand become very interesting because Dienst and Bessler will still lead the championship as expected, but now Axel Jeffries could be second in the championship and suddenly very much in contention as well. 13.5 points back with 25 to score in tomorrow's race. That would be compelling. Munding and Luton currently third in the championship on 80 points if things were to finish as they are right now, but there's still a long time to go. 17 minutes of racing remain. It must be said regarding Matthias Luton, he's losing time to the cars ahead of him, so I'm not convinced that he's going to make up any further positions in this one. Torsten Kratz also technically within championship grasp as well, as I believe would be Leonard Wies, this man. It looked like we had two obvious championship favourites going into this race, but the retirement of Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst, along with the fall through the order for Matthias Luton after a difficult pit stop, has really thrown things into disarray for almost everyone except for this man, Leonard Wies. Wies, who runs in the junior category. He is currently listed down in equal third in junior. Or rather, sorry, in third place behind Bessler and Dienst, who of course are equal second since they share the car. So this result could impact the junior standings as well. Donar Munding, a runaway favourite in those standings right now. But Leonard Wies, with a good points haul today, could put himself into significant contendership. Certainly looking to be compelling stuff in the season finale that takes place tomorrow evening. Car number 21 has just been given a drive-through penalty for a pit stop infringement. So, unfortunately, everything is just being compounded now for Matthias Luton and Donar Munding. The 21 Molnar Motorsport car is going to have to go into the pits, drive through, and I believe that might put Luton at least one place down behind the Gebhardt Motorsport Ginetta of Jakob Erlbacher. There's Maximilian Hacklander in second place. Third place, Jesse Salmonauscio, Leon Duca, and Rory Penttinen, third, fourth, and fifth place. And Duca's lap times are getting quicker, but I think Penttinen is on the hunt. Here's a replay of how Jesse Salmonauscio got his way up into third place. A great run through the Parabolica and up towards the braking zone at turn 6, the hairpin. Fairly easily done when all was said and done. Leonard Wies crossing the line to start the 23rd lap of this race. We've still got 14 minutes of racing to go. There are certain packs getting closer together, but Leonard Wies is driving away right now. Lapping quicker, or had been lapping quicker than Maximilian Hacklander, but Hacklander actually just took 8 tenths out of Leonard Wies. So it's quite possible that Leonard Wies is maybe taking the worst out of his best out of his tyres, but I do think it's a stretch for Maximilian Hacklander. He's only got 13 minutes to make up 15 seconds, and that feels unlikely, doesn't it? Matthias Luton into pit lane to serve that drive-through penalty. In the back of shot there, you can see Jakob Erlbacher coming through, and Erlbacher moves fourth into 6th place. I think Luton is safe from further position loss. Oh, and big deep into the hairpin there for the 14 MRS GT Racing Ligier of Rory Penttinen, who continues to push on. At no point has Penttinen looked like he's on a cruise. He's consistently been pressing and trying to find the limits of this Ligier. sure that he and MRS GT Racing are working very hard indeed to try and wrap their heads around this car, fresh from the Ligier factory. Salman Alshio remains in third place. Leon Duca falling back. Question is, what about Rory Penttinen? Can he get past Duca? Can he challenge Salman Alshio? Hockenheimring in second place is setting some very impressive lap times. He's just taken another second out of Leonard Wies, but I fear it's too little too late. Gap is down to 14.8 seconds at the head of the order. Salman Alshio, meanwhile, with two cars within about 3 seconds of him. That's more like 2.5 seconds. Covering third to fifth places, and Penttinen once again late on the brakes into the hairpin. Is it too late? No, he absolutely nailed that, actually. Gained big time on Leon Duca. Flash of the headlights then from Penttinen, who means business. As I look to the inside at the Mercedes arena, and to be fair, Leon Duca was very gentlemanly indeed, kind of offered up the inside there, but Penttinen wasn't quite there to take it. Of course, the flip side of that is that slowed both of them down a little bit there. That's given Salman Alshio a little bit of breathing room, but we saw a lock-up. Did he make the corner? Thankfully he did, yes. Salman Alshio obviously still pressing on, even though these two are distracting each other somewhat with a bit of a battle. Into turn one then, once again in this battle for fourth place, Leon Duca. Driver who only moved up from karts in the very recent past. He was still a full-time kart racer in 2019. So certainly a driver with a lot to learn, a youngster with a lot of promise. Right now, he's under pressure from someone who's taken championships in these cars in the form of Rory Penttinen. Penttinen to the inside, and once again just braver and more confident in the braking into the hairpin. Gained car length on car length over Leon Duca into that braking zone, and Rory Penttinen has moved up into fourth place. Can he now chase Salman Alshio? Certainly. Salman Alshio hasn't got far up the road, so I think it's more than possible that Penttinen can challenge for fourth place. Make that third place, my apologies. And that would be a great showing from Penttinen and for MRS GT Racing. As I remind you, MRS GT Racing was still peeling some of the wrapping off the car at the early stage of the week. Brand new chassis. And up into fourth place for Penttinen. His lap times at the moment are quite a bit quicker than Salman Alshio. He just crossed the line to a 139.022. Salman Alshio's last lap was a 140.457, and that does feel a little bit academic with just a second between the two of them, but Penttinen is still going to have to find his way past the 72 car. Meanwhile, Leonard Wies continues to lead the way for WTM Racing. We get brief glances of him every now and then to remind us that he is in fact still there, and 13 seconds clear of Maximilian Hockenheimring in second place. Hockenheimring, who is currently doing a great job of elevating his teammates Axel Jeffries to potentially second in the championship coming out of this race. Of course, Hockenheimring hasn't been racing with Jeffries all season, thus they are on different points totals, but Jeffries, with the misfortunes now for both Matthias Luton and Molnar Motorsport, as well as the Marvin Dietz Berkay Bessler number 7 TalkSport WRT Ligier, the misfortunes of both of those cars, combined with a second-place finish for Hacklander and Jeffries, puts the championship back into a state of flux. The ball is firmly in the air and not sure who's going to catch it. Here comes Penttinen then in the MRS GT racing car, locking up massively. Of course, lest we forget, that car is still walking slightly wounded. We're rear-end damage from the very first lap of the race when he was collected by the 33, which is now being driven by Martin Berry. Of course, it was Oscar Tunio at the wheel in the early stages. Berry now sits down in 8th place. Penttinen then has indeed shrunk the gap between himself and Salman Alcio up ahead. It's a battle among the Finns at the moment then. Penttinen, a Finnish racer, as is Salman Alcio. Let's see if this is the time where Penttinen makes up to P3. He's loved overtaking here at the hairpin. He's so confident on the brakes in the Ligier, and once again, he's braked later than his adversary. Has he made the corner? Somehow, yes! He must have some of the best braking technique of anyone out there on the circuit. And he is now up to 3rd place in this race. The MRS GT racing crew will be cheering him on. A podium for them in their first outing with this brand new car would be sensational. We are rapidly approaching the final 5 minutes of the race. I don't think there's any further progress to be done for Penttinen. 3rd place is the ceiling. There's about 18 seconds between Penttinen and Maximilian Hacklander up ahead in 2nd place. Incidentally, Leonard Wies now 11.2 seconds clear of Maximilian Hacklander, who has been closing in and has been setting a scintillating pace all throughout this race. But ultimately, I think the cross is too much to bear. Maximilian Hacklander, of course, who also has a 5-second penalty to serve at the end of this race. Quite apart from that penalty, owing to a pit stop infringement, I think quite apart from that, the gap far too much to make up in the level of time that he's been given. The assignment simply too much, but Axel Jeffries will nonetheless thank him kindly for potentially putting him right back into the championship hunt. The Zimbabwean racer Axel Jeffries, something of a trophy hunter, plies his trade across LMP and GT cars pretty much week in, week out. And he would dearly love to fight for a championship tomorrow, and at the moment, that is exactly what looks to be happening. There's Jesse Salman Alcio in 4th place. 4th place, a good, strong finishing result for the 72 crew of Aaron Ram and Salman Alcio, but it's probably a little bit disappointing that the podium has slipped away from them in the final few minutes of the race. Penttinen, though, too strong, has already gapped Salman Alcio. He's, of course, one of the junior category drivers, was 6th in the junior category coming into this weekend, missed a couple of races in the season, or retired from a couple of races in the season, more accurately. Leonard Wies for WTM Racing, though, is our leader. The 11 car leads the way. This is going to put them still just about on the fringes of overall championship contention. Still mathematically possible for them, but moreover, the efforts of Leonard Wies here are going to tee him up nicely in the junior class, and it will also mean that his teammate Torsten Kratz is suddenly a much bigger problem for Matthias Luton than he had been previously. Luton had a 51-point cushion coming into this weekend. I think that will be down somewhere around 30 points after this race in the trophy classification. Leonard Wies approaching the final couple of the corners now with 3 minutes left to go in this race. Just has to nurse the car home again. The threat from Maximilian Hacklander is effectively non-existent. when you consider the gap between them and the fact that Hacklander will have a 5-second penalty applied at the end of this race. WTM Racing have been impressive here in Prototype Cup Germany this year at times. The Nürburgring event was a non-score for them, though. I think they'd be a much more prominent factor in the championship if that were not the case. There is Maximilian Hacklander, 9.6 seconds back from Leonard Wiest now, so he's got it to within 10 seconds. It has been an absolutely roaring job from Maximilian Hacklander. He was very excited to be back at the wheel of a race car at the Lausitzring round, where he emerged in Prototype Cup Germany for the first time. He had been driving the medical car at ADAC GT Masters 2 weeks prior at the Nürburgring, so got his opportunity to hop back behind the wheel of something a little bit more racy. And he has really knocked it out of the park, along with Axel Jeffries. And let's see what the gap is now. It's still shrinking, 9.1 seconds. Hacklander closing in. He's also got some lap traffic up ahead in the form of Martin Berry, long-time Ferrari Challenge and GT racer. Won the 458 subclass back in 2017 in the Asian Ferrari Challenge Series. But trying his hand at LMP3 here, and as a savvy businessman, always looks for the cost-effective solutions, and this is a very cost-effective category in terms of entry fees and the like, so I'm not necessarily surprised that he's here. He goes a lap down to Maximilian Hacklander, though. A day to forget for Rinaldi Racing, who have sometimes been one of the more competitive squads out there on the circuit. Oscar Tunyo, unfortunately, well out of championship contention. They weren't present at Spa at the start of the year in April, so they were never likely to be in championship contention, but nonetheless, sometimes their luck and their performance haven't necessarily matched together well. Leonard Wiest then is currently on his penultimate lap of the race, as is this man Maximilian Hacklander. The clock has hit 0:0:00. We're going to have one more lap of racing, though, plus one lap at the end of this duration. And Maximilian Hacklander will be pretty happy when he looks back at his data, I think. He's been setting 1:37s like they're going out of fashion. Leonard Wiest, though, crosses the line now to begin the final lap. The last lap board is displayed to the WTM Racing crew. And this will be their first win of the season. After just one more lap, we've seen, of course, 4 wins for TalkSport WRT, Dienst and Berkay Bessler. A win each for the Reiter Engineering 24 car back at the Nürburgring, and also for Matthias Luton and Donner Munding. They got a win, of course, at the Lausitzring round in August. Now adding to the overall victory table, potentially in just a few corners, is Leonard Wiest along with Torsten Kratz. The Duquesne chassis taking just its second win in the Prototype Cup Germany as well, of course. Donner Munding and Matthias Luton's Molnar Motorsport entry is also a Duquesne. Into the final sector of the lap then comes Leonard Wiest. He and Torsten Kratz are about to leap forth into contention for both the trophy and the junior classes within Prototype Cup Germany. They also will still have an outside shot at the overall championship, but it is an outside shot. Nonetheless, it's a great day in the office for WTM Racing, for Leonard Wies and Torsten Kratz. Wies takes the car home across the line to take the win at Hockenheim in Prototype Cup Germany. And the release from Torsten Kratz there. He finally can breathe a sigh of relief and maybe have a lie down after that one. 6.5 seconds the gap ultimately between themselves and Maximilian Hacklander, although I believe that will go back up again owing to a 5-second time penalty that should be tacked on to the end of Hacklander and Axel Jeffries' time. That won't affect their position though. Across the line in third now comes the 14 MRS GT Racing entry of Penttinen. A good result, I'd say, for Rory Penttinen and the MRS GT crew. Also, we have 3 manufacturers once again in the top 3. Duquesne from Ginetta from Ligier. Jesse Salmon-Alschio taking 4th place for the Korinen Kempi Motorsport team, along with his teammate Sebastian Aronram. Of course, Salmon-Alschio is, I believe, 20 now. Has previously run in F4 and LMP3s in the Asian Le Mans series. So he's very much the junior there, along with Aronram, who I believe recently celebrated his 40th birthday. Leonard Wies across the line with a weave, then taking the victory from Maximilian Hacklander. Penttinen and Salmon-Alschio 3rd and 4th, and Leon Duca held on to 5th place. A good result for Reiter Engineering. Leon Duca and indeed Moritz Lerner. Jakob Elbacker finishing 6th place, the number 70 car. The Gebhardt Motorsport Ginetta taking 6th place. Matthias Luton in 7th. We're going to get a rundown of the order now, confirming what I've been telling you. Kratz and Wies taking the win by 11 seconds once the penalty was applied. Rory Penttinen, the solo driver, in 3rd place. Aronram and Salmon-Alschio taking 4th position. Lerner and Duca rounding out the top 5. The last of our finishers behind Martin Berry in the 33 Rinaldi car was Julien Schell and Thibaut Earhart, who wasn't quite on the pace we're expecting from him in his stint, but that car did look very skatey today. Danny Sufi failing to finish after that car, refused to start back up again during the pit stop. And of course, Sebastian von Gartzen and Berkay Bessler, both victims of their collision at turn 6 on lap number 1. I don't think we've had a straightforward race at any point in the Prototype Cup Germany season. There's always drama, there's always something going on, but the latest twist in the tail is a significant one. Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst have been pretty much ironclad so far this year. They did have a non-finish at the Nürburgring, but that aside, they've looked very strong, and 4 wins has certainly helped them along the road to that. However, now it's all to play for in the championship. We will get confirmation of the championship standings, incidentally, in the not-too-distant future, if my knowledge of our wonderful TV crew is to be carried over from previous categories. Leonard Wies embracing Torsten Kratz and the Rinaldi crew as well, getting in on the action. Of course, Rinaldi and WTM Racing are effectively one in the same from a personnel standpoint. And what a showing from Wies and Kratz. I noticed that Maximilian Hacklander is wearing an Alex Fontana race suit. That caught me off guard for a minute. I was like, that doesn't look like Alex Fontana. Eventually, I figured out the riddle. Of course, Fontana also raced for Conrad Motorsport in recent times. Kratz and Wies having a bit of a debrief. There is Maximilian Hacklander. He will confer with Axel Jeffries, who is back into championship contention now. He will be within 14 points of the championship lead. It must be said that so long as they have a strong result, Bessler and Dienst should still be our championship favourites, but we've already proven how quickly that reputation can dissipate in the last hour or so. And you see the ADAC and Creventic logos on the P1 board. Of course, a joint venture between Creventic, the team behind the 24-hour series, and ADAC. And it's been a great season so far, I understand, for 2023 calendar expansion. And a quite sizable increase in cars is expected. Lots of teams committing to more entries, other new teams coming into the fold. Of course, we've got MRS GT racing with a Rapper fresh car this weekend as Franz Conrad steps onto the scene to congratulate Kratz and Wies there. Certainly the 2023 Prototype Cup season is looking to be something very special indeed. Of course, we started the season this year at Spa, and where better to start a new Prototype Championship. There you see what I was telling you earlier on. Within 14 points, Axel Jeffries, 13.5 back from Diensten Bessler. Jeffries, yes, is still an outside shot with 25 points left to score, but we've already had one non-score for Diensten Bessler. Anything is possible. Donar Munding and Luton within shot of it as well. A great debut, though, in the Prototype Cup Germany for Rory Penttinen. The Finnish racer claiming third place for MRS GT Racing. I'm sure this is the first of many podiums for a team with great success all over the world, including, of course, in the ADAC GT Masters paddock. Axel Jeffries and Maximilian Hacklander with another successful outing for Conrad Motorsport and Ginetta. A second place finish for them. Can Axel Jeffries perhaps secure the championship? Can Kratz and Wies take their respective junior and trophy class championships in tomorrow's race? For now, all we know is they're today's winners. Of course, in both the trophy and junior classes, the standings are multiplied based on driver classifications, as in their driver ratings with their bronze, silver, etc. And I believe that neither Kratz or Wies will have claimed the championship lead in the trophy and junior classes with that result, but they will be a lot closer to it. We'll have the full picture for you by the morning, or rather by the evening, when we go racing for the final race of the Prototype Cup Germany season. And Franz Conrad in amongst the debrief. I'm sure mixed feelings for him. He's smiling. He's got a winning smile and a thumbs up. But of course, I'm sure he's feeling for Danny Sufi, who unfortunately didn't get going again after the pit stop. It's a very unfortunate day for Danny, who had the exact same problem at Lausitz. It seems that there is perhaps a slight glitch in the system with that car. Perhaps the electrics are a bit faulty, because we've seen that car slow down, stop, have to be resetted several times. Podium then ongoing. Rory Penttinen has already joined the podium. Axel Jeffries and Maximilian Hacklander taking second. Kratz and Wies taking their rightful step on the top of the podium. A solid result. Their first win of the season. I'm sure celebrations will be the order of the day down at WTM Racing. I think we're going to have a representative from the team join us shortly. In fact, no, here comes the national anthem. So then, podium celebrations ahoy! It's time to see our winners receiving their trophies. And look at this! A bit of motorsport organisational royalty in the form of Stefan Rattel, ex-GT racer as well. Big up the Venturi days for Stefan Rattel in the mid-90s. And what a sight that is to see Stefan with us. Of course, he is a keen supporter of GT3 racing, and ADAC GT Masters celebrating the close of their season this weekend. Great to see Stefan as a part of it. Great result for Rory Penton. I'm delighted for MRS GT Racing. They've been very much working by the seat of trousers this weekend, sorting out the car just days after it arrived. Pretty much the first running it ever had was, well, Thursday. And you don't typically win within 48 hours of taking something out of the box when it's a racing car. Wies and Kratz, though, are winners in this race today. They'll pose for the pictures and they'll spray the champagne. And we will no doubt fade to black shortly after that, but a reminder of what has happened here today in the championship. Berkay Bessler and Marvin Dienst failed to see the finish, and that has left the championship wide open. Axel Jeffries is their closest competition. Bessler and Dienst still are odds-on favourites with a 13.5-point advantage and 25 left to score in Sunday's final race of the season. As you can see, though, from this highlight reel, it's been a dramatic Saturday, and I'm sure Sunday is going to be just as crazy. Make sure you join us at 5:30 local time here at the Hockenheimring for what will be a spectacular close to the inaugural season of the Prototype Cup Germany, brought to you by ADAC and Creventic.